Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. You're listening to This Holistic Life, a Taptosaurus production with your host, Nicholas Zart. So welcome to this second edition of This Holistic Life, where we talk about the different types of systems out there that you can have right at your fingertip to help you better understand not only who you are, but what is your place in society, where do you want to go, and how do you want to go forward. Now, today I'm going to talk about something I've been practicing for the past 7 months. And if you're like me, and you've been practicing a heck of a lot of different things over the years, sometimes over the decades, sometimes it's really hard to stick with one thing and one thing only. And that is not to say that you should, or even you shouldn't, but sometimes, you really have to try different things and find not only the things that stick with you, but the things that incorporate well into your life. We are very lucky. We're very fortunate. This is, 2016. We have access to so many amazing things. The internet has brought to light all sorts of wonderful systems and schools of thoughts, philosophies, religions, whatever, you name it. And obviously, we can choose from a lot of different things. Now, one of the things that I became aware of in about 2006, 2007 was something from Hawaii. And it's an old traditional Hawaiian system that was updated for modern life. And specifically for us Westerners, because, well, we don't spend enough time thinking, meditating, working on our inside. We actually are a society that is very much extroverted, that looks to the outside for gratifications, for everything. So this system is called Ho'oponopono, and it is from Hawaii. Now, traditionally, Ho'oponopono worked in a sort of a family setting. So you would have a priest or a huna, as it's called over there. And that priest would start with, different types of blessings. There were breathing exercises. And then the family would air all of their grievances. And they would not be allowed to finish and leave until everybody was okay. Everybody had finally made that I'm sorry, please forgive me, yes, I forgive you, and that's not a problem. So in the in the late 70s, a wonderful lady by the name of Morna Simeona, one of the last high priests of the Ho'oponopono tradition, decided that we need to change this system and adapt it, or maybe even create a new system for the Western world, for the Western mind that is so preoccupied with outside events and so preoccupied with everything. And since, rightfully so, since they do not meet as family gatherings, then let's change it and let's adapt it to their lifestyle. This is one of the amazing things that I found with Ho'oponopono, and like other systems that really work on outside circumstances, hoping to reach, the source of it all. And let's say here, just let's use Reiki as an example. I'm a Reiki master, and so one of the things that I was taught decades ago is, you act as a channel for that divinity energy. So you don't really know where Reiki is going or how it's going to work, but by the fact that you are doing it, you are that channel, you let divinity work through you, and that not only helps you, but helps the situation. Still, it is an outside focus activity. Now, this modern new type of Ho'oponopono, which, by the way, was made famous by Dr. Joe Vitale in his first book, Zero Limits, and now at the second book called At Zero, where he explains a little bit more about Morna Simeona's thinking that, let's bring it into an completely internal, introspective system where the fundamentals are very simple. A, you take responsibility for yourself. But that means a little bit more than in our Western way of looking at how we take responsibility for ourselves. This really means that whatever I experience, I have a part of responsibility in it. Now, I know this kind of drives people a little crazy sometimes when you say something like that. I mean, after all, I didn't start this fight. After all, I didn't start these wars. After all, so on and so forth. But you are reacting to it. Not only that, but you're aware of it. And if it doesn't leave you feeling blah, then you are reacting to it. Then there is something inside of you that is reacting. And it's that exact thing that Ho'oponopono is trying to get to. That which pushes your buttons, and thus those buttons have to be addressed one way or another. Now, what does Ho'oponopono mean? Ho'oponopono, in a truest sense of the word, means to make right, to make things right. Ever feel like you feel like you've wronged someone, or you've wronged a situation or an event or something like that? Ever feel you wish you could take it back? Well, Ho'oponopono is a really wonderful way of working through all of those things inside of you, so that you can get rid of the thoughts and data that you carry around, and then move forward with more awareness of what is going on inside of you. Now remember, everything is an introspection with Ho'oponopono. You look inside. You acknowledge outside reality and all that good stuff. You acknowledge that you react to it, but really the main thing is I take 100% responsibility for what I do. Before I go any further, I'm no expert. Like I said, I've only been doing this for about 7 months. But in 7 months, I've found some really interesting results. And nothing in the sense of I've changed my world around and all that good stuff. No, not at all. It really is more about my inside connection to my inner, quote-unquote, family. And so the way, the cosmological way Ho'oponopono looks at you is very simple. And it's in a very, it's a little bit hard to explain, but let's put it this way. Our minds. This is our rational minds. This is what makes us move, eat, go to sleep, talk, this, and that. In Hawaiian, it's called the uhane. So that really dictates all of your bodily functions, all of your basic everyday drives and moods and this. Well, not moods, just everyday drives, right? The subconscious is really what we call now the inner child. So this is really the part of you inside, and the Hawaiian call it the unihipili. This is the inside part of you that feels, that records, and that plays back. This is the back of your canvas. This is what your reality is made out of. When you see a face you like or you don't like, well, that's because your subconscious basically has associated that face, those features, with something it either liked or didn't like. It's all about patterns, really. But above this, you have the spirit, the superconscious, or what the Hawaiian call the aumakua. So this is actually the part that has direct access to divinity. Now you can call it God, you can call it life, you can call it the all, whatever fits your vocabulary, fine. So the whole idea is the uhane, the normal mind, your everyday normal mind, cannot readily access divinity or God. The only way it can do that is by accessing your subconscious, or my subconscious. How do I get inside and feel what's really going on inside? Because ultimately, what I feel inside is really what motivates me to move forward in life, to present myself a certain way, have the conversations I have and everything. So the idea is to not only rekindle that relationship with your subconscious, which for most of us, we've probably never done it. And if we have, we tried, but we didn't know how to. Ho'oponopono gives you a way of initiating or rekindling that communication with your subconscious. But here's the interesting part. According to Ho'oponopono, the inside of you, the subconscious, the unihipili, has direct access to your superconsciousness, your superconscious, your spirit, your, as the Hawaiian call it, your aumakua. And that is how you can actually petition, and this is a great word that is often used, petition God, divinity, to please come and help me out. So Ho'oponopono, at least in my case, came at a time of my life where I just finally realized I couldn't do it alone. I finally realized I couldn't pull everything together and make myself a sort of a magical witch's brew and transform myself into a very happy person like I used to in a very aware state of mind. And it happened at a time when I realized basically that, you know what? God, divinity, whatever you want to call it, has the blueprints, has my blueprints. It created me. I appeared out of something, and that has to be what I call my divine creator, right? Logical, right? So how about petitioning it to go, hey, you know what? I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I've tried for decades. I'm still not doing it well. I need help. Now, this is also one of the founding philosophical block of Ho'oponopono, which is actually it's actually something that anybody can understand, especially if you have a little bit of psychology or if you understand how psychology works. It's that your subconscious repeats everything and plays it in the background of everything you've ever experienced, felt, have not processed. So think about it. Like I said before, you walk into a room, there's a face you like, there's a face you don't like, but you don't really know why. That's because your subconscious most of the time drives the bus. Your inner child drives the bus. And, well, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. It can be definitely a good thing if you're aware of it and if you have a good relationship with it, but it can be a very bad thing if you are not aware of it and you don't have a relationship with it. So to bring it back down to earth a little bit here, Dr. Vitali and his mentor, by the way, who was also studied under Morna, Dr. Hugh Len, calls this the data that we carry around in our computer being the brain, the uhane, the consciousness. Now that computer uses data blocks that it has witnessed, that it had felt, it saw, it moved through in life, and that constructs your reality. When you open up a door, you don't think about, I am moving this finger, this muscle, I'm twisting or pulling on this thing, and this contraption that is flat opens up, and no. You have a representation. You know what a door is. You know how a door functions. You know how your hand functions. So this is part of the data that drives you and that facilitates a lot of things that you do. But there's not a lot of awareness in that, right? And the flip side is that you might be holding on to things, and of course you are holding on to things, I'm holding on to things that I haven't fully digested. So Ho'oponopono, through accessing this data that the subconscious replays over and over and over ad nauseum until you finally get it and go, hey, what the heck is going on here? So Ho'oponopono, now I've talked a little bit about the idea, the fundamentals and everything, works on a very simple mantra. And this mantra is pretty much going to blow your socks away. And if you react badly to it, ask yourself why. Because I kind of laughed at it a little bit in the beginning, but then I saw the light. And I saw the light in a psychological sense, in a spiritual sense, in a religious sense. And you know what? Straightforward as a human being, myself, all emotions involved. Those mantras are very easy. And you repeat it in whatever order you want all the time in your mind. It's simple. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. Think about it. This is really great. I'm sorry. This is finally humility. This is finally realizing, wow, I really haven't made it this far. I really haven't figured out that thing which really bothers the heck out of me, okay? Please forgive me. Now, this is the crux. This is where we really get into it. This is the part where the mind goes up to the subconscious and goes, wow, I am so sorry. Dude, sorry. I finally realize you're the one holding all of this in. You're the one taking it all in, and you don't have language. You can't express yourself except through patterns of behavior that I take in and act on, right? Wow. Please forgive me. I totally did not understand who you were. I love you. Hey, everything is okay from now on. We're going to get back in shape. We're going to get back talking to each other. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to understand this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to work through anything that I want to work at this stage. Now, this is a very simplistic explanation of this. And like I said, I'm no expert, so there are plenty of other explanations. But think about it on a psychological kind of level. It's basically your mind talking to the subconscious, or your mind opening up the channel so that the subconscious can finally find an outlet to talk, to express itself, since it doesn't really have a language. and to open up that dynamic and that relationship between yourself. Now, on a very spiritual level, humility is one of the greatest things we can all adopt, especially in the West. And of course, Buddhists have been hailing this for centuries, also Hinduists and many old religions, and even proto-Christianity, which, by the way, was very much into humility, unlike the modern version of it these days. And I shouldn't say that. I think it's all changing now. So that's the spiritual aspect of it. And of course, just the regular people-person aspect of it. As in my case, 7 months ago, I was wiped out. I didn't really have any taste for things anymore. I didn't care. I didn't care if I got run over by a bus. I only loved my wife and I loved my mom, and that was the only thing. Those were the only two people holding me back on this planet. Thank goodness. But that, I'm sorry, was, you know what? I screwed up. Please forgive me. I don't know what I did. I tried my best. I really messed up. I love you. That was hard. That was hard because I didn't love myself. Not that I love myself now, but I have a definitely bigger appreciation of myself than I did 7 months ago. Thank you. Yes, thank you for giving me that opportunity to go forward and to move on. So this gives you a bit of an idea of what's going on. One book I highly recommend you should buy if you're interested in that kind of thing. And again, take into consideration that Ho'oponopono is a very different system from most of the other systems we will talk about. For me, it's one of my underlining basis of my spirituality these days. I do that every day. I miss it if I go a day without it, and it's extremely rare. I do it anywhere from 5 to 6 to 7 times a week. And the book I highly recommend you start off with is called At Zero by Dr. Joe Vitale. That's Vitale. And that will give you not only a good understanding of what Ho'oponopono is, but it'll give you some very interesting things and interesting prayers too. Because here's one thing that it did for me. It rekindled my understanding and my appreciation of a prayer. Now, I grew up in a Christian world. I grew up in the West. I grew up in France, in the south of France, where things were very Christian. And of course, that kind of Christianity was very, it was very difficult to deal with because it's all about being sinful. And that, of course, had made me associate prayers with being sinful, with being a martyr and everything, which the inside of me was kicking and raging against. So when I started seeing those prayers in those books, and again, it's not a religion, okay? So it's not a prayer in the sense of religion. It's really a prayer in the sense of a petition to the divine creator. And I really like them because to me, they were good, they were wholesome, and psychologically, I understood them. So here's the very first one. It's very simple, and it's something that you can do. It's something that takes months to percolate, to hit the right spots, but it's called the Peace of I. And it simply goes, peace be with you, all my peace, the peace that is I, the peace that is I am, the peace for always, now, and forever, and evermore. My peace I give to you, my peace I leave with you, not the world's peace, but only my peace, the peace of I. And there's an interesting point to be made right here. Ho'oponopono does not strive for happiness. You know, happiness is a very temporary solution. It strives for being content. And there's a huge difference here between being content and being happy. Being content is you understand how things work. You have a grasp on yourself, on things around you. You are armed with enough things that you can go out and face life's diversity. Being happy is a state of mind. Being happy is, you think you know something, or you're on a good wave, or Lord knows what. But at least in my book, it doesn't have as much substance as being content. Being content is I understand. Therefore, I am okay, and I am content. So this actually really talks about that, this little prayer, because it says something very interesting. Not the world's peace. Remember? Ho'oponopono is inward. I'm not looking for world peace. Whatever you want to find out there, then go ahead. You know what? It's a quantum flux. Whatever you need to find, you'll find it out there. Not the world's peace, but only my peace, the peace of I. And this is something I absolutely always loved, and I've enjoyed from day one. There's another prayer that we won't go into, but suffice it to say, you have to buy the book. It'll explain it a little bit better. And I'm flipping through the pages as I'm talking about it, but it's an interesting prayer in the sense that it petitions, again, going back to how our conscious mind cannot directly or theoretically directly access the divine creator, God, life, the all, whatever you want to call it, but has to go through the subconscious, which then talks to this higher spirit that we have, which has full access to God, whatever you want to call it. And so there's an interesting sort of meditation prayer that goes something to like, it talks to the super spirit via the subconscious. And it says, please locate the origin of my thoughts and feelings around whatever you want to work. Let's say you were molested as a child. Let's say you've hurt someone, you've done something wrong, or you just let yourself down. So you want to get to the origin of these feelings. And then it says, take every part of your being to this origin and then analyze it and resolve it according to the divine creator's will and truth. And this is amazing, right? Because it's saying, work it out. But if it's not supposed to be, don't worry. Just do whatever the creator wants to happen, okay? But it also says, come through all generations of time and eternity, healing every incident and its appendages based on the origin. Isn't that great? That also says, get to the bottom of it. Get to the source of it. Tap that source. Analyze it. Resolve it. And then come through all generations of time and eternity. Isn't that beautiful? Healing every incident and its appendages based on the origin. And here's the logical loop. And this is the part I absolutely love about this. But, do it according to God's will until I am at the present filled with light and truth. And then, it ends with a sort of a more, normal prayer about, finding peace for myself, excusing myself, forgiving myself for my crazy misinterpretations and all of that good stuff. And then, of course, forgiving others. So there are trainings into Ho'oponopono according to Dr. Hugh Len and most of his disciples. And these trainings they happen a few times a year. They're about, $600. But they do something very interesting. For the first 2 years, you go through something called Basic 1. And that actually gives you a few sets of prayers and different systems based on the same dynamic, based on the same wording, more or less, that help you solidify that trinity that you have inside of you, that, super spirit, consciousness, subconsciousness, acting as one, as a unit of one, talking to the divine creator, talking to that which created us from the beginning of time to the present. And so you petition again the divine creator for a Ho'oponopono, which is, I want to make right. I made a mistake. I want to make right. I did this wrong. I want to make right. So Ho'oponopono has its place in society these days. It's something that you can do all the time, anytime. I mean, it's easy to repeat in your head, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And by the way, whatever order you want, I love you, thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you, I'm sorry, whatever. But the important thing is to repeat it, and repeat it. Because the idea is that we want to heal. We want to heal these early traumas we all have in life. We want to heal what the subconscious keeps on carrying around and everything. And one way to do it is by repeating that mantra over and over and over and over again. Now, why not the Hawaiian mantra itself, much as why not a Tibetan mantra or a Hindu mantra or a Hindi mantra, actually a Sanskrit mantra? Well, that's because there's two thoughts of school here, and I don't have any preferences either way. I think the great thing about saying it in English is that it actually has some sort of a charge. You actually already understanding. I love you. It means exactly that. I'm sorry means exactly that. Please forgive me. Those words are easy for anybody to understand. Thank you is, it's thank you. However, Om Mani Padme Hum, well, what does that mean? That doesn't really mean that much. Plus, there are so many different interpretations of that that it makes sense to repeat it in English. And I'll tell you one thing. After 7 months of doing that every day, I've noticed something, and I'm going to share a little bit about my personal life here. The last year or so, I've noticed a lot of strange things happening in my life. I'm 50, of course. I'm at that age where things are changing, and instead of just always being a nice guy, the party guy, the center of the party, and that sort of sunshine and that walks in the room, I started not being satisfied with that anymore, and I started wanting to just say my truth, just be my truth, just be firm, but in a loving way. And of course, that's very hard to do when you don't know how to do it. So in the beginning, well, I ticked off a lot of people, and I kid you not, up until 45, maybe 48, I've never had an enemy. Maybe one, a business partner who did something really screwy with me. But you know what? I attracted it, okay? I need to work on that one, by the way. And so I started ticking off some people, and I started, even my neighbors who I told, hey, guys, you're making noise. Hey, you can't park in my driveway. Hey, this, hey, that. They did not react very well at all to me saying, no, you can't do that. That's where I draw the line. And I don't know if it's a question of they expect a lot or they expected me to be a certain way, but you know what? That's the line. That's where I draw it. And the hard part was realizing that all of a sudden, people didn't see me as this nice, jovial, happy-go-lucky guy you can get along with and talk about almost anything. No, Nicholas exists. Nicholas says no. Nicholas draws the line here. Oh my gosh, shock and horror. So the last few years, I've noticed a lot of that. I've noticed a lot of people who have, not reacted very well to that. However, Ho'oponopono did something fantastic. It rekindled my inner family. It rekindled my inner center, my inner peace. And when I see, my best friends, going to parties and I'm not invited to these parties, yes, it hurts. But what I have inside, what I found inside is something I hope everybody can find, because it is so much more peaceful than anything I've ever done in the past, any people I've ever loved in the past. And I'll leave you with this very one last thought. In a lot of the methods inside Ho'oponopono, you ask to cut all cords and ties with people, as in energetic ties. And this is one of the greatest sense of freedom I've felt in my entire life. Anyway, today's episode on This Holistic Life was about this Hawaiian tradition of Ho'oponopono, but this is the modern version, and I highly encourage you to look into it, see if it fits, to see if you have any questions, anything you want to talk about. You can contact me at nicholas@carnewscafe.com, or find me on Facebook. I actually opened up a Ho'oponopono group, and I'd be very happy to hear from you guys. In the meantime, you have a wonderful time, and we'll talk to you soon next week. Tongue-tied, twisted.